like a soldier in a war. Take a stand. Every woman and every man down on our knees. We gotta beg and plead. We can't give up. We can't give in till God will bless America again.
Hello and welcome to Save the Nation with Jason Rapert. We are so glad that you are joining us here today. Starting off a great week right here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. And we hope that you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, whether you're listening to us going down the road or you are listening to us on a smartphone or an iPad or on your computer, wherever you've got us. But we appreciate Salem Media for giving us a home here for the National Association of Christian Lawmakers and giving us an opportunity to talk with lawmakers, talk to influencers across the country that are addressing major issues that face our nation and openly discussing these things from a biblical worldview, talking about the impact of legislation and how it affects everyday lives of American citizens. And for those of you that live here in Arkansas, in the area where we tape the program, in the Little Rock metro area, how it affects you here in the state of Arkansas on a daily basis. And I can tell you, living through the pandemic that we've been through, that government affects every single one of you. We've seen businesses closed at times. We've seen churches closed. We've seen doctors and nurses told they can't prescribe medicines. We've now been dealing with the most unusual thing that I've ever seen, where people are being threatened to lose their jobs if they don't take a shot, if they're not injected with something in their body. It's something that I've never seen before. So every single day here on Save the Nation, we talk about these issues because we know it affects you right there in your own household. And for some of you listening, I know you've already gotten the pink slips. You've already gotten the phone calls and said if you don't take an injection into your body, whether you want to or not, you're going to be fired. Now, some of them are trying to use different language, but here's the result. They'll say, well, you didn't comply with a business policy. Oh, well, it's a policy that never was there when they got started and they went to work. But now all of a sudden you're changing that. But the end result for you is you don't have a paycheck hitting your checking account. You don't have money coming into your family because they're taking away the ability for you to take care of your families. So we're going to address this week. The very first program for our week, we're going to be talking today with one of the most, I think, conscientious as well as conservative lawmakers here in the state of Arkansas. I'm going to be introducing him again fully here in just a moment, Senator Kim Hammer. In fact, many of you may hear him on his own program. We're going to get him to tell all about that. But I want to say thank you, number one, to all of you that have been reaching out to us. You know, you can go to christianlawmakers.com and you can actually sign up, be a member with the organization, which helps us out. But you can learn more about the entity and what we stand for. So we encourage you to do that. But I also want to say thank you to the people that make this program possible, makes it possible for you to be listening to us and viewing us today. So I want to thank patriotmobile.com. And when you reach out to them, tell them that we sent you. Tell them that you heard about us right here on Save the Nation with Jason Rapert. Go to patriotmobile.com and you type in the promo code NACL. That's the acronym for the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, and you will get the opportunity to have your cellular service with a company that gives a portion of every dollar that they earn to guess who? Christian conservative organizations across the country. And look, if you start digging and do a little internet research, you're going to find that a lot of the entities, the companies that you use, they're giving your money to leftist organizations, woke organizations, to fight against everything that you believe in. And so it's important. It's important that you know where your money is going. So we encourage you to go out to patriotmobile.com and appreciate you for reaching out to us. Share us with your friends and your neighbors. Well, look, I always try to share a little bit of information. And today I've got my American Patriot Bible with me, and I'm looking forward to having the man who compiled the Patriot Bible. Dr. Richard Lee is one of our National Board of Advisor members here at NACL, and he is planning to come on and be on the program with us, and we'll try to announce that and promo that for you a little bit. But he put together this wonderful American Patriot Bible. And this Bible it's the Bible. It's the Word of God, all 66 books of the Bible, but it's put together like a study Bible that you might have seen for men's study Bibles or women's study Bibles. And inside here is a lot of history as it relates to the Judeo-Christian foundation of the country. So here's a couple things I want to share with you. This is a quote from President U.S. Grant. He said, "Hold fast to the Bible as the sheet anchor of your liberties." That's a big word for this week, liberties. "Hold to it as the sheet anchor of your liberties. Write its precepts in your hearts and practice them in your lives. To the influence of this book are we indebted for all the progress made in true civilization. And to this we must look as our guide in the future. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people." Here's another one for you. This is from Benjamin Harrison. He said, President Harrison said, "If you take out of your statutes, your Constitution, your family life, all that is taken from the sacred book, what would there be left to bind society together?" You see, our entire country, from the Declaration of Independence and its references to God, throughout our entire country's history, there are references to the Bible and the sacred book. Now, here's what Ronald Reagan said. One of my favorite presidents, next to President Donald Trump, is President Ronald Reagan, the 40th president. He said, "Inside the Bible's pages lie all the answers to all the problems man has ever known. It is my firm belief that the enduring values presented in its pages have a great meaning for each of us and for our nation. The Bible can touch our hearts, order our minds, and refresh our souls." President Ronald Reagan. Well, that is a perfect intro to the gentleman that I'm going to introduce to you today. Friends, I'm very happy to have on the program today Senator Kim Hammer. Senator Hammer, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Senator Rapert. I appreciate the invitation to be with you today.
You bet. Well, I want to say just a minute before you get started. Number one of your great characteristics is you're a humble person. But a lot of people need to know a little bit more about you. I'm going to tell folks here myself that what I've known about Senator Hammer, he is very conscientious. He is very thorough. He tries to be very methodical and logical in the way he presents issues, the way he handles issues and discusses things in the Arkansas Legislature. But he also is a pastor, which that's dear to my heart. And so he is a man of God. He lives that out in his life in the way that he handles things. That's been my experience with him. And I'm very, very happy to have him on the program because he is exactly the kind of state lawmaker that the NACL wants to make sure that we support and that we have interacting and influencing the policies at the state, local, and federal level throughout this country. Well, Senator Hammer, I know there's some big issues we're about to talk about as it relates to vaccine mandates and what just happened in the Arkansas Legislature. But before we go further, I've told them a little about the man I know, but tell us about the Senator Kim Hammer that we don't know. So, Kim, you represent the Benton, Arkansas area. You've got your own radio program right here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. Tell us a little bit about the Kim Hammer of the old days and some of the things that you're doing right now.
Well, I don't know. I want to go back to the old days, but I do serve Senate District 33, which is here in Saline County and West Little Rock, West Pulaski County. Of course, redistricting is coming up in the next few weeks, so we'll find out where we're all going to land after that. But predominantly, you would say Saline County. My wife, I've been married to for over 42 years, been in the ministry over 42 years. She is a public school teacher of 39 years, and we have 3 great kids, and we got 5 great grandkids, and we got 2 on the way, both of them boys. So the Hammer name is going to live on, and I'm proud of that. So we're very pleased to live here. And yes, I do have a weekly radio show. It's heard on Saturday from noon to 1. They're here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. And in fact, Saturday I had on State Senator Blake Johnson, who ran a piece of legislation, tried to get it through this past session. He also ran a resolution that basically condemned the Biden administration for trying to get evasive into our financial means, and had Lori on, who is the president, CEO of the Bankers Association, and then had Senator Dan Sullivan on. And we talked about, and had Greg on from Northwest Arkansas, the lawyer that this past week successfully was able to stop the mask mandates in one of the school just using the laws that's on the book already.
Yeah.
So we talk about topics of interest to Arkansans as it relates to things going on, both in the legislature, but also various agencies. And it's called the Kim Hammer Show, and you go up to my website or to the KimHammerShow.com. And Jason, you've been on there. Senator Rapert, you've been on there, and always been proud to have you as a guest on the show as well.
Well, I've enjoyed it, and I think it's fantastic that you set up that program, because it is a very good, detailed program. You always have great content on there. And you mentioned some of your guests. Actually, Senator Sullivan is going to be a guest on this program tomorrow, so we folks will tune back in and hear from Senator Dan Sullivan. And, of course, Blake Johnson did offer some good legislation. And I want to make mention, because you talked about the lawsuit. I believe it was Greg Payne was the attorney up in Northwest Arkansas, and if I'm not mistaken, I could tell you they announced, I think he's going to be running for the state Senate somewhere up there. He's planning to run for office, and I think it would be great to have a good, strong, conservative person with a good legal mind like himself. We already have a couple of attorneys here in the Arkansas Senate, but and we don't want to get too many of them. They'll just mess everything up. But but actually, Greg has done great work. And I like it that he is not fearful of going out there and taking on issues that need to be handled. And thanks for sharing a little bit about your background. I just think it's fantastic, Senator Hammer. I mean, what a better way than, I think I've seen your signs out there with a hammer on them. And so you've got a great last name, and you've lived up to that. But I can also say that you do it with kindness and love, too. But when there's need for a hammer, Senator Hammer's there to make it happen for people. Well, look.
We'll bring whatever size hammer is necessary to get the job done.
There you go. I prefer a sledge when it's necessary. But look, Senator Hammer, I want to tee this up, because I want to hear, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about the future of the country toward the end of the program. But I'd really like you to just take a moment. You actually were there were several people that were out there fighting. Many of us fought with you on the floor in support of your legislation. But Senator Hammer, you carried what, if I would say, and for people listening, what became sort of a compromise, trying to bring together as many members as possible. So there was a bill run in the Senate, there was a bill run in the House. Just lay that out for people a little bit that are listening to the program today about the legislation, what the intent was, and what's the posture of it right now that the session is over.
Sure. Thank you. And you were very instrumental in helping get that legislation through, and I appreciate you. And it really was a teamwork of all the legislators, because the vast majority of the conservative legislators are concerned about the federal overreach with regards to the vaccine and the mandatory requirement of it for employment. And so what we did was we kind of shadowed off of Senator Bob Ballinger's effort last time around to get a piece of legislation through that would at least afford people the opportunity to be able to retain their job. It did have some caveats in it. The two primary pieces of the legislation was that if a person could produce evidence that they had the antibody in their system, that they would be able to use that. They would need to confirm that up to twice a year, no more than 6 months. And as we know, with the COVID virus, there's new information coming out every day. You've got to kind of take everything with a grain of salt until it's had time to prove itself out. And then the other opportunity was that the employee could choose a test of their own from approved tests in order to be able to provide a weekly test and show that as evidence that they do not have the COVID virus. These are two areas. Obviously, Senator Ballinger at the last moment did try to get his bill through, and this was kind of a frontal approach. We were coming at it from 3 or 4 different angles, and so we all came together to try to get across the finish line what we could. And what came across the finish line was Senate Bill 739. Josh Bryant was a huge help on that in the House of Representatives, and we actually ran two bills that were identical, so that, and the key component of the bill was the emergency clause, because that would have meant that the bill would have went into effect as soon as the governor signed it, or if he chose not to sign it, it would go into effect immediately. Unfortunately, we could not pull the votes that we needed on the Senate side. We made numerous attempts to get that across, both with his bill and my bill. We were too short. So the law will go into effect in 90 days, but, and I hate to use this doomsday expression, but it's open season on employees by employers.
Wow.
That want to terminate them because they're not willing to take the vaccine. But we were able to get something in place that we hope will be a placeholder in the future.
Well, Senator Hammer, I'm glad that you mentioned the emergency clause and that situation, how that works. In the legislature, when we have bills that pass, that's that first opportunity for that member to say, yes, I support it, or no, I do not. And what's happened, so people understand, I want people to hear this, because people need to be well informed about how this process works. And I know it's getting into the weeds a little bit, if you will, but hey, this is a program where we want people to know what's going on. Right. Because frankly, getting into the weeds on this issue means the difference whether or not mom and dad has a paycheck to put food on the table for their families next month. And I want the people that have been involved in this debate to understand that. And I'm going to say for my own self here, Senator Hammer, I believe in private business and free enterprise. But there have been times when I've even had to step up when I see businesses taking advantage of other people, especially small business owners. And you and I have been at work on that with pharmacy benefit managers before. And I've always said out there, I say, look, I believe in free enterprise, but I don't believe in a license to steal. Right. And that means that I don't believe that there is anybody that has a license to take away the individual liberties that are guaranteed to people in the United States Constitution and the laws of this country. In the spirit of the Declaration of Independence, it says that one of the fundamental rights we have is liberty. And that liberty has been jeopardized. And so explain to people, because they go, wait, you passed the bill, and they passed it in the House, and they passed it with the emergency clause in the House. Why is it that we are foiled here? Why is it that we're disrupted here? And explain why a member, though they know the majority voted for a bill, would withhold the ability to allow that go into effect for people. Could you explain that to people?
So the importance of the emergency clause is that had the emergency clause passed, then people would be able to take full advantage of this opportunity now. But as it is, some members did not vote for the emergency clause, and it won't go into effect for the next 90 days. As far as why people didn't vote for the emergency clause, that's on them to explain their vote. I do not think it was a good thing that they didn't vote for the emergency clause, because for the next 90 days, what that means is that employees will be at the mercy of their employers as whether they're going to go forward with the mandates. And I do support business 100%. And I think my record shows that, as does yours, Senator Rapert, when it comes to the tax cuts that we've given the employers, the businesses. You know, because one thing that happens is small businesses come to us and they ask for our protections as legislators. This idea was actually born out of the idea of a small business owner who came and said, you know, if they drop off the 100 and come down to the 1 and 2 mom and pops, I'm not going to have any protection. So part of the idea behind the bill was it would give the small business owners the protection of the law, so that they would be able to say that they could have something incorporated into their policy that would allow these options. That's one reason why we took the 100 threshold out. And personally, I think Biden eventually is going to try to get that 100 threshold out of there and just make it for all business owners.
Well, there's no doubt that President Joe Biden wants everybody in America to take this vaccine. And, you know, Senator Hammer, what's puzzling to me is we've debated this issue, and I've come down to this. There is so much disagreement, and I don't think some of the business owners actually understand how many people have been calling on their legislators and begging them for help here. I don't really think that they have a true understanding of that or an appreciation of it. But examples of this is I had a Conway firefighter call me up in my own district. His wife worked for Conway Regional Medical Center. He said, Senator, is there going to be any help to protect us because they're getting ready to fire my wife? Now, these are two people that are servant people. I mean, they're serving the public, both of them, serving to protect lives and save lives. And to listen to them is heartbreaking to me. And so what what I believe is that, just as you said, we know they want. In fact, I had one employer who I will not share his name or who he was with, but he said, hey, don't do this. He said, I'm about to get everybody vaccinated here. Well, sir, there are some people that their doctors say they have health issues that they don't need to take the vaccine. And here's the thing that really is crazy, that really didn't get vetted out just in the debate that wasn't time. But Senator Hammer, is it not true this shot is not even fully effective? It is not working as advertised, which they first advertised and said, you take this COVID vaccine and you're not going to get sick. That's the way vaccines typically work. We think you're not going to get sick. Now, we know there's not perfection in every single vaccine out there, but there's a tremendous history. But in this particular vaccine, there's a lot of people that have been vaccinated that are getting sick. And now they even say that those people can spread the disease themselves. So it's kind of funny. They think the unvaccinated are their problem when actually they're dangerous to unvaccinated people because they can spread it and not even know it. So what about that?
Well, and I think there are plenty of studies out there. The study from Israel would be the greatest one, I think, because they're out ahead of us. There are other nations that are out ahead of us, unfortunately, in bringing forth the evidence as far as the effectiveness of the vaccine. I personally have been fully vaccinated. That's okay. That was my personal choice. But I know people that have received the vaccine, and you do too, and so do many other legislators, that went on and got the virus in spite of being vaccinated. This bill was actually taken from the CDC guidelines, which both of these things are acceptable methods. And that is one of the beat your head against the wall moments, and that is, if you're going to use something that the CDC says is okay, then why can't people understand that it is perfectly acceptable to have these two options along with the vaccine and give the individual the choice as far as what they want to do if the CDC has said these are okay. When illegal immigrants come across the border, and this is in the CDC guidelines, they are not necessarily tested for the virus, but they can be tested to determine if they have the immunity to the virus, and that is acceptable. I do not understand why it's acceptable to use that standard for illegal immigrants coming across the border, but it's not okay for employees to have that same right.
Yeah. Well, it's just been very interesting to me to see the constant bungling on behalf of the federal government. I don't think that Dr. Fauci and the Dr. Faucis that he has spawned in some of our states around the country, and frankly, right even here in the state of Arkansas, it's amazing how they have broken all trust and confidence in public health. People do not have confidence, and I think it's very dangerous, because we need to have confidence in public health, because the situation is not completely over here yet, and there will be new situations that arise. And what's happened is that they've literally broken down confidence that we can trust a lot of people in the public health arena, and that's a sad thing for everyone concerned. It's very detrimental and may even cause harm to people in the future because they don't have that trust to take recommendations. So what else about this issue and how it's going to be affecting people right now in the state of Arkansas do you think people need to know about?
Well, I know you keep hitting nerves with things that you say. I don't know if you've seen the report out there, but over 4,100 doctors and medical professional scientists have signed a statement saying that they believe that this thing, and you used the word a while ago, I think botched, that this has not been approached. And what is disappointing is that there's a narrow-mindedness on the part of on the CDC and Dr. Fauci, that they feel that what other doctors that are frontline doctors dealing with this that their opinion and their experience of success is not acceptable to be introduced into the conversation. And when you have that kind of attitude, it raises suspicion, in my opinion, as to whether or not what is your intention and what is your motive.
Yeah.
Because when you have over 4,100 doctors around the world that are saying this is not going in the right direction and this was not handled right, and you ignore that experience, and they may not have the CDC stamp behind their name, but that doesn't mean they don't know what they're talking about. And unless you're afraid to open up the conversation and let people weigh in, and maybe you have to admit that you didn't take this in the right direction, then that causes me to question ulterior motive. As far as this bill, it's in front of the governor now, waiting to see if he's going to sign it into law, if he's just going to let it go into law without his signature, or if he vetoes it, which we'll know by Wednesday. And after Wednesday, it'll be law unless he vetoes it. Of course, we'll be able to come back in and override that veto.
That's right. Well, folks, you're listening to Senator Kim Hammer, that serves out of the Saline County area, serves people in the Benton, Arkansas area and all those parts around in Saline County. And he's been one of the champions for us trying to stand up for individual liberties here in the state of Arkansas as it relates to what we know as the employer mandates, the vaccine mandates. And I know that many of you listening, you individually are being affected by this. And as I said at the beginning of the program, I don't know anybody that has not been affected by this situation in our country. We begin to see the effects of this in 2020. And I won't go through my own story on this again, but it's affected our family tremendously. We've lost family members. Many of you listening, you've lost loved ones. You've seen it affect them. And then now you're seeing that you've got friends and neighbors, and we see them even making these outcries on social media. And they're being fired. And these are perfectly healthy people that have done their job. They don't have any problems at their work. And they just simply say, you know what? I just want to take a pass on taking an injection of a vaccine that is not performing at the levels that they would like to see. And these are nurses and doctors that are bringing it up. And I'll just tell you, that is the loudest voices, Senator Hammer, that I have heard from. I've paid attention to those people. and when this past weekend, I was in Springdale, Arkansas on Saturday of this past weekend. I was speaking up there, and I'm telling you, wow. A lady got up in the back and asked the Surgeon General of Arkansas, where is his voice on this? And it's not just him, it's where has the voice has been on this issue. And that doctor got up and said that she has made prescriptions for her patients for ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, and when they went to get them filled, a pharmacist said, no, we can't fill this for you. We won't fill this for you. Even though the doctor said, I didn't even know until this issue that you could have a pharmacist refuse to fill. Now, I know that because you and I deal a lot with pro-life issues and protect them, we know that there's certain pharmacists and doctors and things, they don't want to be involved in abortion. That's a whole issue in and of itself, because that's taking the life of an unborn baby. And typically people in healthcare want to keep people alive. Okay. So there is conscientious objections to that, that are there of conscience. We understand that. But I have found, and I'm just going to say it straight up, this was spoken in public, that the pharmacy, the company that was refusing the prescriptions is Walmart. So why would Walmart Pharmacy, which in some communities may be the only pharmacy option they've even got anymore, why would they be refusing to fill a prescription of an actual doctor that has prescribed that? And so this is being said, and this has been talked about in our committee rooms. Why do you think that this is happening on this particular issue? I've never heard about it in other issues before until this one right here.
Well, I think that there's probably some intimidation that's coming down through maybe the Department of Health as far as regarding what people are allowed to do or not do. I do know, and I've heard what you have said as far as chain stores that have sent down to their pharmacists that they are not able to fill these prescriptions, or they better not fill these prescriptions, which I think is just, I mean, it's just as tragic that a chain store pharmacy, a chain store that owns the pharmacy within their chain store would tell their pharmacists that they cannot fill a prescription, as much as it is that a pharmacist would tell a doctor that they won't fill the prescription.
Right.
And if everybody would just get out of the way and let the physician do what they feel is best for their patient, because they have that working relationship with that patient, then the pipeline would open up. Now, you know, conspiracy theory would be that it's a whole lot cheaper to treat somebody with ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, or the cocktail as they call it, than it is probably the money that's being made off of the vaccine.
Right.
I think one thing that would be good, and I'm going to reach out to you right here and tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to do an audit of the handling of the COVID situation in Arkansas, and just go ahead and open up the can of worms, even down to the point that I think we ought to go in and do a sampling of the death certificates and put an independent set of eyes on it and take a look at some of the successes, because you and I both have stories, as do others, of physicians that have utilized the cocktail or other treatment choices, but they are intimidated as far as not being able to come out. That's why I was glad to see over 4,100 doctors around the world. And there are some Arkansas doctors that have begun to sign that as well. And I think what we've got to do as legislators, we've got to give coverage to these pharmacists, the actual pharmacists, the actual doctor, the actual APRN, the people that are on the front line, to let them come out and tell their story. Because I think when the story is told, we're going to see a different result than the narrative that's being driven now.
Amen. Well, I agree with you. I think that it should be looked into. And I mean, you know, this whole thing, when you back off and look at this, I'm backtracking here. We've been very honed in on this particular thing with the employer mandates and the vaccine issues we've been dealing with. There's just so much smoke here. That's the problem with the issue. It's not passing the smell test for so many of us, because it's been handled so differently than anything else. And to go back to the very origination of this, I mean, the whole mysterious way that this come out of Wuhan, China. And I can remember them making fun of Senator Tom Cotton, because he said this thing looks to be possibly engineered by communist China at this lab where they were testing these bioweapons and these things. And they laughed at him. And now finally, now that they pushed Trump out of the way, they finally now are saying, oh, well, wait, there may actually be a problem with this. Look, the communist Chinese, they've gamed out a pretty good strategy on this thing. And it's really interesting. If you don't have anything to hide, isn't that what they say? Then why not say what you think? Let us see what's going on. And we still don't even know that. So you go back to the origination of the virus. Then we begin to see all this, don't wear a mask. You know, by the way, it was Dr. Fauci, remember, everybody, that said, oh, they don't need to be wearing masks all the time. Okay. He said, don't do that. Then he changed it. And guess where most of the masks come from, Senator Hammer? China. I mean, it's like if you were the devil and you were thinking of a way to put together a sinister plan, you unleash a virus into the world, making people sick, and oh, you just happen to be the only one that has enough supply of these masks to sell to everybody, and all the PPE that goes with it. It just begins to be it's really sinister to me. And then the fact that you shut people's down, you shut the economies down, all of this has gotten so bad. I'm sad for Arkansas, Senator, that we got people that were begging for help. And there are some lawmakers that you know, I know they had hard decisions, and I do understand they've got reasons when they make their decisions. But the reality is that there are people, you've hurt them. Their livelihoods are being taken away from them. And don't think that you're not hurting businesses. They are hurting businesses because many of the people that are begging for the help are the people that own the small businesses that have contracts with the large businesses that are being said, if you don't vaccinate your people, then you can't have a contract with us anymore. So therefore, they have hurt businesses. It's so sad and tragic, the whole thing. So Senator Hammer, on this issue, before I get to the next topic for you here, where do we stand right now? We're waiting on the governor to sign or veto this bill. And when that happens, what next for the state of Arkansas and the people that are affected?
And let me answer that question, but let me say this before you do. One of the things that this bill does is it brings a constant to an ever-changing dialogue. The CDC, even our own Department of Health and other entities change the narrative depending on which way the direction is coming from. And one of the things that this bill did was it put into statute what the accepted requirements are that businesses would have to offer to their employees. So regardless of whatever happens, mask, no mask, ivermectin, whatever, at least there's something that is constant in legislation. It would have been great if we could have got the emergency clause on so that employees could go ahead and begin to utilize these options again that have been referenced by the CDC. But unfortunately, for the next 90 days, and what I hope is that businesses that have come to us and asked for money, and we have helped them through a critical time, and some of that money was even for the medical field, the hospitals and clinics that had nursing shortages. And so we are very pro-business, but at the same time, I hope that they've heard the message of the legislature that over the next 90 days, we are not going to be very happy, and we are going to be looking at how they treat employees for the next 90 days until this bill can kick in, and then the employees will have the coverage of it. Because I suspect, as you said a while ago, this isn't going away, but if we can get through the next 90 days, at least they have some coverage. It has set up the perfect fight between the state's right and the federal government under Joe Biden coming in and imposing his will upon the state of Arkansas and the employees of Arkansas and the citizens of Arkansas.
You're exactly right. And it is beginning to be a states' rights issue and a states' rights battle. And, there are some of the people in Washington, D.C. right now, Senator Hammer, they don't care about states' rights at all. No. They don't. They would just as soon that there not be a 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. To be honest with you, these are people that really don't even take into consideration the Constitution as they're making their decisions. And that's what's sad about it. And that's what's sad about some of the Obama-appointed federal judges that are out there wreaking havoc right now in many of our federal judicial districts and circuits, is that they make decisions that are politically motivated. This is why I've been so proud of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's related to a separate issue, which is the Texas heartbeat bill. You got these Obama judges trying to throw stuff back up out of Texas, and they got swatted down again recently and said, no, the Texas law is going to continue, even though you don't like this. It's a real problem. And this is why it's important to elect Christian conservatives to office. And I'm just going to say it very, very plainly. Just because somebody is a Republican does not mean they are a Christian conservative and vote as a social conservative as well as a fiscal conservative. If you're looking for true social and fiscal conservatives, you need to ask people, what is your opinion on abortion? Do you believe it's okay to kill a little baby in a mother's womb? Ask them about liberty. This is a great topic to ask them. What are your thoughts about people being forced to take an injection into their body? What you're going to find is you're quickly going to separate the wheat and the chaff here about that particular issue. So, Senator Hammer, we're getting to the very end of the program here today, and I know that listeners have enjoyed hearing your perspective, and I know that you're going to have these topics on your own show, and I encourage people to pick up on the Kim Hammer Show on Saturdays right here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. You'll be glad that you did. Senator Hammer, in the closing moments here, this is the National Association of Christian Lawmakers platform. And on this platform, we pride ourselves on having people just like yourself to come on and visit with us. We've had legislators from all over the country, thought leaders and Christian leaders from all over the country that's been on this program since we started in August of this year. And one of the things that I've been consistently beginning to ask, because I think it's so interesting and many times very profound what I hear our guests say, is you never know that moment when suddenly you're the voice that goes viral. You never know what clip, you never know that moment. Somebody seizes on it. Sometimes they think they're doing it to exploit you or hurt you, but they're getting your voice out. And I would love, and I want you to speak with the power and unction that you speak when you are speaking to someone about to lose their life, if you will, because this country, we're heartsick right now. We've turned away from God. We've got a country where people kill babies and call it a choice. People squelch liberty and call it their own interests. We've got little girls that are being told maybe they feel like being a little boy today. They're disrupting their lives. And to be frank with you, as Christians, we have codified in many states, but through federal judicial edict, they have now made legal men marrying men in our country, in the practice of homosexuality, which is against the Word of God if you're a Christian. Frankly, it's against a lot of faith traditions, not just Christians. I mean, we've gotten out of hand. I mean, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. God destroyed the whole earth during the days of Noah. He said, I'm done with everybody. And he destroyed everything. And he started over. So if you knew that your words right now were going to be heard by 300 million Americans around this country and maybe even around the world, what would you tell people that they need to be doing right now to help save this nation on an individual basis?
I think what we have to do is live an individual lifestyle that is pleasing to the Lord, realizing that at any given minute, God can take the privilege that we enjoy as America away, because the only reason we exist as a country is because God allows us to exist. You won't find America mentioned anywhere in the Bible, which tells you that if we don't change the course of direction that we're going on, as far as God is concerned, we are dispensable. He doesn't need us in order to get the job done. And we better stay on the right side of God, because otherwise he is going to revoke our privileges to enjoy the freedoms that we have. And just like other nations in the Bible that were punished by God, we're set up to be punished severely by God. And what we need to do as a nation today is to repent, and Christians to get a vocal voice, and also to take a stand, get involved in politics, and quit shying away from it, because we need people that fear God making the decisions about how we as a government are heading.
Well, thank you, Senator Hammer, for being on the program today. We hope that you'll come back again anytime that you've got an issue that you'd like to bring to us, and appreciate the program that you do here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. This has been very informative for the listeners today, and your last words were some of the most powerful words, and I want to thank you for being a voice of light in a world that has grown very dark. So God bless you, and thank you for being with us, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Rapert.
Good to have you. Well, folks, you've heard from Senator Hammer here today on Save the Nation with Jason Rapert. We've had a robust discussion about the last legislative session that has just come to an end, dealing with the vaccine mandates, employer mandates that are out there. And I encourage you to stay involved. The news is going to continue to come out over the next few days about what is going on in relation to the Arkansas Legislature. The governor of the state of Arkansas has already made statement that he intends to bring us back in on the 25th of October to deal primarily with tax cuts, but know that in a special session, if you get 2/3 to join you, and that being a legislator, you can introduce bills. You can file bills and have the legislature decide we are going to take up a bill. Now, I've made a commitment that I am going to take up the Arkansas Heartbeat Bill with the Texas-style civil cause of action, and look forward to bringing that up. You'll hear more about that on the program as we go forward. Well, I want to take a minute today to tell you that we just thank you again for tuning in and being a part of who we are and what we're doing on a daily basis here on the program. I'd like you to go out to ChristianLawmakers.com. Go out there and let us know that you're listening. Reach out to us. Become a member. You can help support us. Also, remember to go out to PatriotMobile.com. Well, as I end the program today, I want to share with you something that I believe is important. This is a small, if you will, little caption on the connection between religion and democracy. The following excerpt from Franklin Delano Roosevelt's State of the Union to Congress in 1939 underscores how, until recent years, America's leadership understood the vital connection between religion and democracy. With Hitler on the move in Europe, President Roosevelt said this: "Storms from abroad directly challenge three institutions indispensable to Americans now as always. The first is religion. It's the source of the other two, democracy and international good faith." I'm going to say that again for you. For all the listeners and the viewers, listen to this. It says, this is President Roosevelt said, "The first is religion. It is the source of the other two, democracy and international good faith. Religion, by teaching man his relationship to God, gives the individual a sense of his own dignity and teaches him to respect himself by respecting his neighbors. Democracy, the practice of self-government, is a covenant among free men to respect the rights and liberties of their fellows. International good faith, a sister of democracy, springs from the will of civilized nations of men to respect the rights and liberties of other nations of men. In a modern civilization, all three, religion, democracy, and international good faith, complement and support each other. Where freedom of religion has been attacked, the attack has come from sources opposed to democracy. Where democracy has been overthrown, the spirit of free worship has disappeared. And where religion and democracy have vanished, good faith and reason in international affairs have given way to strident ambition and brute force. An ordering of society which relegates religion, democracy, and good faith among nations to the background can find no place within it for the ideals of the Prince of Peace. The United States rejects such an ordering and retains its ancient faith. There comes a time in the affairs of men when they must prepare to defend not their homes alone, but the tenets of faith and humanity on which their churches, their governments, and their civilization are founded. The defense of religion, of democracy, and of good faith among nations is all the same fight. To save one, we must now make up our minds to save all. Now, powerful, powerful words from a Democrat president. It's too bad that Democrats of today don't take a little lesson from some of those early Democrats in our country. He knew at the time that the world was getting ready to face an awesome, awesome adversary. That adversary was in the human figure of Adolf Hitler, who took the world to war in what became World War II. You see, that's why it's important you elect good people to serve in office. What if Germany had refused to elect Adolf Hitler to the very first office that he had? What would the world be like today if Adolf Hitler had not caused the extermination of over 6 million Jewish people in a genocide, in a Holocaust? We would definitely be a much better place if we had all those beautiful people alive today and their children and their grandchildren alive today. But no, people gave power to Adolf Hitler. And when Adolf Hitler seized that power, he went even further and took even more power, greater power than anybody had ever taken in Europe at that period in history. And he used that power to impose his will. And he began to interrupt daily lives. He disarmed people. That's why I'm definitely never going to give up the right to keep and bear arms, our Second Amendment here in the United States. He disarmed his population. He used propaganda to tell them things he was doing for them was for their good while he was planning to kill them and exterminate them. And he did that. There is a connection between religion and democracy. And you know what? I've been attacked, as you all know, many, many times, and I continue to be attacked by people that want to knock me out of the public square. They want to knock me out of politics. They want me out of office so bad they've accused me over the years of being racist, which is a lie. I've been called a misogynist because I stand up for pro-life issues. I've been told that I'm demeaning to women and all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm a preacher. I'm an ordained minister of the gospel. People stand out there and say that I wave the Bible at them. Look, I'm just speaking up for what the people of my district believe in, and millions of people in America believe in, and I'm going to continue to do that. And yes, that means that I'll get attacked over and over again. I'm used to that. That's just part of what happens. It's wrong, and I oppose that, but that is definitely part of what happens in our country today. So always check twice and make sure you know who's bringing accusations against anybody, because it's obvious that many people bring accusations just because they want to tear down people and get them out of their way for political purposes. Very unfortunate. You know, I often quote in here as I end the program today, Proverbs chapter 6 says there's 6 things that the Lord hates, yea, 7 are an abomination. You've heard me say many, many times that God hates those who shed innocent blood. You know what else it says? God actually hates those that sow discord among brethren. People that spread lies, people that defame others in the political arena, in their communities, on social media, they're sowing discord amongst brethren, amongst friends, and it's wrong. So I'll take a stand against it, and there'll be times when I stand alone, but I'll stand it. I'll stand that ground just like I always have. I want to thank you all for tuning in and making this program a very, very good platform for us to get the truth out across the country. We appreciate you for supporting the National Association of Christian Lawmakers. We appreciate you for tuning in every single day right here on 101.1 FM, The Answer. God bless you. God bless the great state of Arkansas, and God bless the United States of America. Thanks for listening today.
What he had in mind, or would repent and turn to God, be the words he cried. All of this low living comes with a high cost, and America needs to wake up before everything is lost. We gotta pray like we've never prayed before. We gotta fight like a soldier in a war. Take a stand, every woman and every man down on our knees. We gotta beg and plead. We can't give up, we can't give in, till God blesses America again. It's time to put the 10 Commandments back on the courthouse square. Put God's Word back in our schools, open every day with prayer. Let all the preachers start preaching against sin, and maybe then, God bless America